All right, we're here with Thane McCardell with the Cannon County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. I always can't get that name correct. I'm always trying to go Cannon County Coalition, Cannon County something. You wore your shirt, that helps. Thank you. All right. Tennessee faces an opioid crisis campaign. They put together in the state, they realized that there was a need for prevention and try to combat this type of stuff that's been going on. It's a rising crisis, probably one of the biggest rising crises in the state,
Absolutely.
As well as in the nation, I would think. And you were chosen as one of the ambassadors for Cannon County. Well, actually, you're the only ambassador for Cannon County, but they put you in on a website, TennesseeOpioid.com or something to that effect. We'll get the real name here in a minute. Tell us a little bit about your life. I know that you've been speaking at churches and organizations about your life, and your life is an inspiration story to many.
So I guess I could start sort of early on. I mean, I grew up in the foster care system with a big family. We all got put into foster care. I struggled with substance abuse issues probably when I turned around 16. I had quit that to join the military. I did really well in the military, and then I had hurt myself and was prescribed prescription opioids. And then from there, things just spiraled out of control, really is the only way to say it. I guess after being prescribed the opioids, they would hand them out like candy back then, basically, and then they changed that now, luckily. But then once they changed their standards, they just kind of cut it off instead of tapering down or whatever the case is. So my like I had put in that, my need for the drugs kind of never went away, and then I was also going through marital issues, stress, all sorts of other things, and I don't know what happened from there, but everything went downhill. I tried to get clean for the birth of my daughter. That didn't work out too well. And after she was born, it was just, I was pretty much addicted to definitely any opioid painkiller I can get my hands on. I was doing cocaine, all while I was still in the military. And then that's when things changed. There was an argument that had happened, and police were called, and they took my daughter to foster care. We were deemed unsafe. Me and my wife split up. I lost my house, lost my military career, and then I volunteered for. Once they took my daughter from me, that's when I knew something needed to change. So the day they took her out of my arms was like the worst day of my life. I don't even know how to explain the feeling that I had. And so I volunteered for a recovery court, or a drug court, in North Carolina, which is very extensive. A lot of treatment, a lot of counseling, a lot of urinalysis, a lot of meetings, and it was for a year long. And I completed that, and then I got sole custody of my daughter back, and then we moved down here, and then it's like, well, what do I do from here now? And so I'm a disabled veteran. I can't really work, and I know I needed to give back, so I got hooked up with Mr. Glenn Steakley at the Coalition, and so started to do that. Also, while doing that, I knew I wanted to be a CPRS, Certified Peer Recovery Specialist, and so I had to wait 2 years clean time in order to even apply for it, and then I did that, and I just went to the school for that, or the class for that, a couple weeks ago, and should be certified here within the next month for that. But I knew I just needed to give back, and this is my way of giving back, is by helping others maybe not make the same mistakes that I did, or even if they are making those mistakes, give them an avenue to get out of those mistakes. Because it's really hard when you're going through substance abuse issues and your community doesn't really care, and people around you don't care. They look at you like a leper, or they look at you like you're less than, and it's really hard to, even if you want help, you're afraid, because you're afraid of the judgment and the stigma and everything about it. So what we're trying to do with the coalition and what I'm trying to do just in my day-to-day is maybe not make it so hard for people. Let's try to provide people with services. Let's not look at them like they're less. Let's just look at them like they need some help, and let's offer that help. So.
When your daughter was taken from you, how old was she?
6 months old.
6 months. Well, that's rough.
Yeah, she was 6 months, and she was in the foster care system for a little over a year. Almost 2 years, because of you go weekends first and this, that, and this, and I had to do my treatment first. And I remember thinking when they took her that, oh, I'm going to get her back. Well, my first thought was I never get her back because I was in foster care.
Yeah.
And my parents never got me back. But when I started it, I did everything they told me to do really quickly. All the required stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get her back. But I wasn't actually getting any real help or treatment. And I think now I'm actually kind of glad that she was gone for so long because it gave me the opportunity to get better. And I think that if I would have got her back sooner, which of course I wanted, but I would have probably just ended right back the same way.
Yeah.
As before. So.
When they took her from you, was drugs part of the reason why?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we had thrown a party. We were doing a lot of stupid stuff back then, and somebody got in a fight. I don't really remember how it all went down, but police were called. There was drugs all over the house. Somebody assaulted somebody else. There was people were arguing, fighting. One of the people at the party had somebody there he shouldn't have had there. It was bad, and all in all, my daughter was upstairs sleeping.
Oh.
And so I still think about what kind of the decisions you make while in active addiction is crazy, because I would have never done that, and I never do that now. But when you're doing it, it's just normal then.
Right.
And yeah, so they came, and they took her because it was an unsafe environment, which I get, and they put her into emergency custody, emergency foster care custody. DCS came, and then arrested me for basically everything that was there, and I got lucky with that because I had volunteered for the drug court, so they let me they helped me out by letting me do that.
At what point, after you separated from your daughter, did all of a sudden it hit you saying, hey, look, I need to slow down. I need to get that help. I need to figure it out. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you were behind bars and got some time to think, or how did that work?
No, not. I was very lucky with not getting put behind bars. I don't know how that happened. I guess somebody was looking out for me. But when they took her, at the same time that they took her, I was also going through getting chaptered out of the military. I was on extra duty, which is you work till 11:59 p.m. every night for 45 days, and then they cut your pay in half, and they do all this stuff because of everything that I did, all the decisions I made. And I remember for about almost 2 weeks, I was trying to kill myself by using drugs and alcohol. Just taking way too much of everything, and I was just done because at this moment I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get my child back. And I remember calling the DCS investigator that took her, and I said, what do I need to do? And he mentioned drug court. I'd never heard about it before, and then that's what I did. But it got to the point where there wasn't a single minute where I was sober at all for those couple weeks. I was just really self-pity. I'm never going to see my daughter again. She's better off without me, sort of things. And I was just thinking there, and I remember thinking about my parents, and I remember thinking that the same sort of stuff kind of happened when I was growing up, and I wasn't going to do that to my daughter. There was no way. And I remember right then and there. And so then I called LaKendrick Smith. I still remember his name. I remember I called him and asked about what I needed to do, and that's what he told me, and so that's what I did. And I mean, that wasn't easy after that even. I mean, there was some hiccups along the way. I had to separate myself from everybody that I known, including my ex-wife, because she also has a substance abuse disorder, and us together would not work. I hope one day she gets help, but she's still even in the grips of, well, right now she's incarcerated, but she was still in the grips of addiction even up until that point. And I knew I had to do what I needed to do for my daughter, and so that's what I did.
And it sounds like you didn't have much of a support system helping you, pushing you toward those goals.
Yeah, at first, no. So at first, I still have him. My brother Alex, he lives with me still. He was always really supportive. A lot of my family, my little brother and sister were always really supportive. But at first, it was pretty much just alone. But once I started making strides, then people started, even my mother-in-law, or my ex-wife's mother, my daughter's grandma, she's very supportive now. All her side of the family is very supportive. But yeah, at first it was just pretty much nobody. And when I say at first, I mean for a long period of time.
Right.
Yeah. Like my brother was always there, but he also didn't really understand or know. He was younger, a couple years younger than me, so he just, But yeah, I could say now that I have a pretty great support system, and then also doing what I do helps me keep things in perspective, and I enjoy helping people, and I definitely enjoy being able to share my experience, and if it can help somebody in any way, that's obviously really awesome. So.
And a lot of people don't have those support systems, and that's where you come into key, I would think, because
for sure.
you experience no support, and then all of a sudden now you're able to offer
Absolutely.
people something that they wouldn't have had
and
any
that's
other
what
way.
People need, for sure. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Oh,
that's what people need. A lot of the time, and I would say almost all of the time, most of these people, I mean, even when they're going on, sometimes they've had support and then their support gave up because they don't know what to do, which happens quite often. But most of these people, they don't have a really good support system. They hang out with the same people, and then they go to jail, and then they get out of jail. They go back to the same people, same friends, same environment, expecting something different to change. It's not going to. The change has to come within yourself, and you have to put yourself away from the people that are people, places, and things, as they say. You have to, and you really do. I had to throw my phone away. I had to forget numbers. I had to move, and those things work. And you just have to figure out what's more important, having somebody who you think is a friend but who's not there when the drugs run out, or somebody who wants better for you and wants you to succeed in life. And so it's really important to get a good support system. And like you said, with this, it's still just starting, but we're trying to offer a way to help people get the support that they need with open arms instead of shutting doors in their faces, because a lot of the times that's what it used to be like. Yeah. And hopefully we can not do that anymore.
How difficult is it, of a struggle is it, to try to stay clean every day after you get, like say the day that you came out of rehab? Mm-hmm. How difficult was it to not go back to those habits?
It's an everyday struggle. Yeah, I mean, fleeting thoughts I'll have even still, all the time. But then you need to, really rely on your support system. You need to go to a meeting or go get the help that you need. Talk to somebody about it. But from my understanding to people that I know that have long years of sobriety, every day, every single day, it's a thought that is always there, and it's a thought that kind of plagues you. And sometimes when things are going wrong, or you've had a bad day, you'll just have that fleeting thought, you know what, F it, or whatever, go do this. And then you gotta, you have to, well, what would happen if I did that? Oh, this would happen. And then you kind of have to bring yourself back, reel yourself back in, but every single day it's a struggle.
And that's good that you think like that, what will happen, because there's several people that will fall back into that don't think ahead.
Well, I learned that from many years of therapy. That was most of my therapists were discussing that. Anytime you're thinking about using, or you're really thinking about it, work it out. What would happen? So you go use. Then what? Yeah. You use more. Then what? Then you end up arrested. You end up this. You lose your daughter again. There's no good answer, And so if you break it down, you could be like, well, instead, how about you just go talk to somebody, or instead how about you go to a meeting, or instead how about anything, make a phone call to your sponsor, make a phone call to anybody who's willing to listen to you, and maybe you could prevent that from happening. But yeah, this substance abuse struggle is unreal in that, like everybody says, you know, and then there's the people that think it's not a disease or it is a disease. I mean, it is classified as a disease technically, and which, I mean, because it is, but people just say, well, just stop, or you know, just don't do that. It's not like that.
Right.
It is some of the hardest things that you have to do to stay clean, or some of the hardest thoughts. It's just the amount of, I don't know how to explain it. It's more difficult than anything I've ever done in my life. Let's just put it that way. And I've done a lot of pretty hard things, but this is more difficult. And like I said, but if you have a good support system, if you have people that you can count on, or if you have any community, if the community is involved with you and they want to help, if you have all these things, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
If you have all
You
these,
might be bouncing throughout this video. I don't know just yet.
if you have all these things, it'll make that easier. But the thought's always there.
Yeah, and the people that sit out there and say stop, well, just stop. They
Yeah,
don't understand.
trust me,
They've never
I
been
wish
in
that
your
I-
shoes.
Yeah.
And I think that if people, because I've known people that have been hooked on
Yeah.
drugs and opioids and stuff, and I've seen their behaviors and their patterns and stuff like that, and it is just like you said, a struggle every day.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about methamphetamines. Methamphetamines is one of the worst
Absolutely.
struggles that you can get addicted on, because it's always implanted there. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the opioids. I think in my mind it's a little bit worse, because you have to go and manufacture the stuff, and then on top of that, that's when you get your high. And these people fight, and I've known people that have been meth users to fight every day to try to keep
Yeah.
from getting back on it. And kind of like you said, they haven't gone through the correct therapy to where they think their thought process isn't, well, what happens next? They just go and do it, and they fall right back into that, or they fall back into, you know, things that are worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, just to get the money to front to get the
Absolutely,
get the
yeah,
meth
100%.
and stuff. So, you know, it's a very, you know, it's a fight from day number one after you get addicted. It
And
is.
you just have to find something worth fighting for. Really,
Yeah.
And even if somebody, you know, if you don't have children, or if you don't have anybody else, fight for you. Fight for you for once. You know what I mean? Be selfish a little bit in your sobriety. That's where it counts. If there's any way to be selfish in your life, it's to make sure you stay alive, I think. And so it's probably, you know, you can do that. And it's okay to be selfish when it comes to staying sober, if it comes to getting off certain drugs, or if it comes to getting the help you need. And whatever substance abuse disorder or issue or whatever drug it is, there is help. There's tons of help out there. But the first step has to come from the person, the
Right.
individual. It has to. And it doesn't have to be a big step. All it has to be is just ask the right person for help. And hopefully, with the coalition and other things that we're doing here in the community, hopefully we could find the right person, you know what I mean, and help find the right person. So that's what I enjoy doing, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Take us a little bit through when you got your daughter back. How old was she, and what were the steps, or what was that final step, and finally getting to see her and saying, hey, you're coming home with me?
So, as I was doing pretty well with the drug court stuff, different visits started opening up. You know, first it was once a week at the DCS office, and you just for an hour, and then they started giving like 4 or 5 hour visits. Then it was weekend visits for a few weeks, and then finally, you know, I had my court hearing, and I went up, and they finally gave me back, took custody of her, and I brought her home after tons of in-home visits. They always had to check the house, obviously, make sure it's safe. Tons of, you know, just really, it got to the point where I started getting frustrated, obviously, because it's like, I've done what you've asked, and you know, and I'm still waiting, and but I get why they do the things they do. But when I finally got her, it was the happiest day of my life, because for me, remembering when I was taken from my parents and always had that hope that they would, get me back or do the right thing or whatever the case is, being so young. I was put in foster care 2 days before my 8th birthday. So like I kind of knew what was going on, and I always hoped that they would do better. And it's, never happened. And so that day when I finally got custody back, I can't even tell you how it felt. I was over the moon. I couldn't imagine doing and accomplishing what I did, and just to have my daughter back in my arms, and just to be able to be back in her life for real, and still be there, is an amazing thing. And it's what helps me wake up every day,
Yeah.
And so it was the greatest day of my life, really. And then as soon as I got her back, I was like, okay, so now I can leave the state, correct?
Yeah, we got to pack our bags and go.
And they're like, yes. And I'm like, I'm out of here, because I couldn't stay there. I was
Right.
living in an apartment complex right on a highway where I used to buy drugs from, you know what I mean? But I couldn't leave the state at the time. So yeah, as soon as I got her, I think maybe 2 or 3 months after I got, maybe less actually, we loaded in a U-Haul and drove down here. And
What state were you from?
we were in North Carolina.
North Carolina,
when that happened, yeah. And it's because my daughter's grandma lives here. Her brother my daughter's brother, my stepson, lives here, and so I wanted her to have a relationship with them, obviously, and I didn't really have any family, so coming here was not a big deal for me. I don't have anybody out, like I have my brothers and sisters, but they're all off doing their own thing. So, and I definitely needed her to have a relationship with her brother and her grandma and everybody in her life, and so we came down here, and it was a big adjustment. Cannon County's a little bit different than Cumberland County, Fayetteville, North Carolina, but pretty much the same issues, just different drugs when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the same stuff, it's just different variations of that. And it's obviously not as big. Fayetteville's a big city. But, yeah.
Coming to Woodbury, how did you discover the Cannon County Substance Abuse Coalition?
So, I had gotten in a little bit of trouble when I got here. My ex-wife got back into my life, and that was a toxicity waiting to happen. And it did, and she was only in my life for about a week and a half, and my mistakes and my choices weren't good, so I had a court hearing, and I got put in touch with the Child Advocacy Center, Cassell Davis, and she was talking to me, and she'd also talked to my daughter about how, because my daughter's been through a lot too. And she had mentioned that there was this new thing happening and that I needed to call this person. And she gave me Will Taylor's card, who he's the Region 5 North Lifeline Coordinator. And I called him, and he's like, no, you need to call this person, Mr. Glenn Steakley. And then I called him and emailed him. And then we met, and ever since then, just skyrocketed off. So, and I'm really happy to do it. It's given me purpose, because I'm a disabled veteran. I can't do anything else, really. And so this has given me something to strive for, something to do every day, something to do with my time, because that's another big thing. Is you should not, and then doing the CPRS was a big goal that I had, and I just did that, and I should be certified very soon with that, and I'll be able to help other people just like myself get the recovery and treatment options that they need, hopefully.
Yeah, and you've jumped in with both feet, and of course you said you want to stay busy, so you've jumped in with both feet, and starting in January, I believe, you're going to be taking over the monthly meetings, conducting those, and then all of a sudden the state came around and put you as a face on opioid addictions.
Yeah, that was a strange one. I just got a phone call from Glenn and another gentleman who works for the health department, and they said, they think I'd be a good candidate for it, and then they came and they interviewed me, And I guess they're doing that one person for every county in the entire state. And I guess 96 counties I think there is here, so.
98 counties, and I
98.
think they said in the report, was it 5 or 8? 8 counties. 8 counties, they still need a face in that
Yeah,
particular
and so-
county. And maybe you could double up, because in this particular article I'm looking at, Warren County needs one, so. You could really be busy then, double
Yeah.
up the business, but you know, so there's a website that people can go to, as it brings awareness to opioid addiction. Let me see if I've got it. I don't actually have it on me, do I? Yeah, Tennessee Faces of Opioids.com.
Yeah, and that's just a branch of the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. You could get to it from there too.
Yeah. Some of the other things that you've got going on with this program, with the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, you guys make a lot of appearances in the community.
We try to. We try to do everything that we can to let people know that we're here and to let people know that there's help. And so anything that we can get involved with, whether it's any sort of sports games. I mean, yesterday we had a table at the speech contest at the high school. You know, just anytime we could just get out there and maybe hand some information out that people are interested in. If one person comes up to the table and is interested, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When one person comes up to that table and asks, say, hey, what's this all about? I might have a problem. How do you direct them right now?
So, depending on what they're specifically asking, when they usually ask what it is, I tell them to come to the meeting so they could learn more. But if they say, I know somebody, or I haven't had anybody personally say they have an issue, but I've had people say that their grandkids or their daughter or son has an issue. I typically give them the Tennessee Red Line number, and I'll give them any information about the substance that they're on. I'll also tell them to come to the meetings, but I'll say, most importantly, whatever, if they need any sort of treatment options, to call because the Red Line will help you set that up. But a lot of the times, the issue is that I'm getting, when people are asking about that, they say, well, we've tried everything, you know. And it's really sad that when somebody feels that they've tried everything, because we clearly, obviously haven't. You know, if we tried everything, it would have worked by now. So
Right.
I just give them as much information as they need. I give them the business or the cards for the coalition, and I'd say if they ever need anything, you know, they can get in touch with us. And I also really try to get them to come to a meeting so that they can put their input in and maybe have an impact on whatever does happen in the community in regards to their kids or their grandkids or anybody like that. So as far as that, once I'm CPRS certified, I know that they said they're going to refer people to me so I could help them, but I can't do that yet until I have the certification. But there's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of hotlines. There's a lot of organizations out there that do help, and I basically just try to give them all that information.
But again, that choice is that particular
Absolutely.
person who's addicted. If they don't step out and accept it, it's not going to do any good.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
the truth. And so the only thing we could do is provide enough resources and make it as comfortable as possible that when somebody is ready finally, that they're not running into a brick wall.
Yeah.
That the doors are open, everything's open, just come on in and get the help. Because that's really all you could do. You can't take somebody and force them into treatment,
Right.
you know. And sometimes I wish we could, you know, but you can't, and it has to be their decision. In order for someone to become, you know, to truly not get over, because you never do, but to truly get out of the grips of addiction, it has to be their choice. Has to be. And it can't be anybody else's.
Christmas season's coming right around the corner.
Yep.
And you get to enjoy it with your daughter.
Yeah.
How good is that?
It's great. I probably wouldn't celebrate Christmas. Like, I love Christmas, but gifts and things, you know, I don't really care about getting them or receiving them. But because my daughter's here, we just spoil her with gifts, and she loves the Christmas tree. She loves the lights. We're probably going to do that drive with a Christmas lights drive. I can't remember exactly where it is, but she really likes seeing the lights on the house. Every time we drive at night through the community,
Yeah.
and she'll see Christmas lights, she just goes bananas over it. It's awesome, and I'm so happy that she's here. And I keep shaking your table. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. To those that are addicted, you
Yeah.
can send a message, especially in the Christmas season.
Yeah.
What type of message would you send them?
There's hope. There's always hope. Help is out there. You just have to reach out for it. The holiday season gets rough. People get really depressed, more depressed so than they probably already are. But there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not death. It can be life. So I would just say, please ask for help. Ask anybody for help.